Hello everyone, welcome to the Lindenwood Coaches Show. I'm Neil Fischer. Joining us today in his 10th season at the helm for the men's ice hockey team is head coach Rick Zombo. Coach, how are you doing today?
Doing excellent, thanks Neil.
You guys of course are having a tremendous season this year. What was preached to the boys before the season started?
Well, I don't know if I do any kind of preaching, and the words I use is I suggest. I make certain that everybody understands to be competitive for Lindenwood, we got to win the last game of the tournament. And it's a 12-month process. It's the means. We teach the means, and we give everybody an opportunity. And that opportunity, you don't know when it's coming. You don't know how frequent it's coming, but you got to earn the second opportunity. And we work hard, and we've been fortunate that we got off to a real good start.
Speaking of that good start, you guys started off undefeated going into the winter break. What was the mindset like after the first half of the season ended?
Well, it was a relief for everybody because it's a grind. It's tough on the coach because that 3-week Christmas break is long. You don't know what they're up to. They all go home, and it's a relief from not only the rigors of being a student, a successful student, but also a competitive athlete. It's tough, but the way that our schedule is laid out, we hadn't played for 60 games. So our last game was just prior to Thanksgiving, and you get stale. You know, it's an old saying that you don't realize how much work you've done until you sit down. And to be on the bench or in the stands or even at home eating mama's cooking, that's tough for a coach to swallow, not knowing what you're going to get on the way back.
After the big win streak, of course, against, and then you go into University of Central Oklahoma and you guys drop the first game. What was said to bounce back to get that win the next day?
Well, we had a meeting in the hotel before we went to the rink Saturday morning. It was a game that we played a tremendous game, tremendous team game. The score, we lost 4-2, but we possessed the puck. We talked about our scoring opportunities, just not the shots. Our shots were 41-24. We had the puck a lot. Primarily, it's in the house. So in the slot, dangerous areas to shoot. Out of my 12 forwards, I think 6 of them had shots from the slot, and every player had a contested shot from that area. So we're getting inside the dots, which was good. It means that we're competitive. It means that we had the puck. It means that we got seconds and thirds. And how we play and how we defend is primarily offensive. So we track and we make certain that we get 5 in a camera view, and we do it collectively. Our goaltender hadn't played since the first game of the season. He was successful beating UCO, so I gave him that nod. And he played fantastic also. You know, we booted 2 pucks in the slot. We play a high-risk game, so we funnel pucks to the middle. And it's just one of those things. It's on me. If we make mistakes in the slot, so be it. But the way that we play, it opens up 85 feet through the neutral zone and increases our speed on the attack.
You talk about the offensive team. You guys score a lot of goals. Is that your mindset going into the game and the style that you guys play?
That is how we play. Only in January do we start instilling systems, somewhat of a playbook. It's mainly fundamentals and identity. So reinforcing the identity in the fall is important. We play 0 gap. So we force the other team to play in a phone booth. We make certain we pressure on the front, pressure on the back. We always outnumber situations. I got a high skill level. But what we do is we outwork people, and we're consistent and we're patient. And by doing that, it draws penalties, it draws fatigue, and it gets into the depth or the lack of depth of the competition that we play against, and it works in our hands for a 60-minute game.
With 4 more series to go before the postseason starts, is there a sign of relief that you guys got the first loss out of the way and don't have to think about the undefeated season anymore?
No. You try to win all the games. It's to lose a game. Going in, I would have never expected that we'd go undefeated. Okay, so it's nice to lose. Every week is a mini series. So reinforcing the identity in practice. So Monday to Thursday is the most important time for me because it's where we not only reinforce our skills, but we reinforce our identity. We make certain that we're connected, recognizing that you are going to have your ups and downs individually or also as a team, or even the peaks and valleys through the momentum of a game. Having that type of coping skill and reflection of it's okay to dip, but let's not make certain that we bottom out. The bottom out of losing 4-2 or having our first loss, that's not a bottom out. Having adversity and recognizing how to play other than the resistance and the intensity that I try to instill from Monday to Thursday is nice when you get pushed back against good teams. And our whole schedule is good teams. Anybody can win. We just were on the wrong side of the ledger when it came to that game.
So what got you into coaching?
I'm a dumb jock. No. I love teaching the game, okay? So I'm a big proponent of the the greatest resource in the country, which is young kids. I know the game inside and out, so I teach life skills. We talk about life. Most of my conversation with my assistant coach is how productive my players are going to be when they're gone. So after graduation, when they really have responsibilities for a wife, for children, keeping a roof, paying bills, you learn that through sport. You learn it through competitive sport. And that makes for a real good individual. Nothing is done on an agenda other than the fact that we want growth. And that growth it starts with self-esteem. I'm not a hoochie-goochie, squeeze cheeks, pat butts, because there's too many players for that. But to understand that everybody has their own identity, to make certain that they understand that a big, strong, willed person is very important to be successful and not to be denied, or being considered an overachiever is the most important thing for me.
Six of your players were recently named to the Team USA roster for the World University Games. What's that mean to you, having coached these men?
It means USA got it right. It is. I've got a very talented team. Other than a record, a lot of people, because you're not immersed with us on a daily basis, don't know the characters, don't know the individuals. You can see the record, you can see their points, reading stats. They're very skilled. The best thing about these 6 guys is their willingness to succeed. They're ruthless. They're relentless to get that. Even if it's an edge on somebody, they're always exploring for team success. And when you get into an all-star caliber. So the World Universities, it's the minor leagues for the Olympics. It is a big show of the best players that are student athletes. You're playing against pros, so especially when you go to Russia, those are going to be professional players. Players are drawing a paycheck. They're grizzled, they're seasoned, they know how to play. You're playing against men. Even though that, my guys are 24 or younger, these guys know how to play. So to have my 6 guys, they can play up and down the lineup. They can play any responsibility. They can put their pride on the shelf, all for the flag, and they got it right with those 6 guys.
What's it mean to these players and their families to put the Team USA sweater on?
Well, it has to mean everything. It's not so much the experience of going so far away. So I call it Siberia. I haven't even looked at it on a map. I mean, it's a long ways away. But when you could play for USA Hockey, play for your country, play for the flag, there's a pride factor. Not only did these players deserve it, but you have to look back to the family sacrifices of not only monetary but time to nurture, to get them to the ranks, to get them to the level where they're at, to be able to compete as a student athlete at Lindenwood is everything. So it's homage and acknowledgement, and it's a thank you to their families and to their parents, but also it's a blessing for us because we garnish great advertising too. I'm not their parent, but I have them and I get closer to them in their 4 years at school than maybe their parents do. And it's just, I'm extremely proud of them, but they deserved it.
With the 4 more series to go, what is your mindset coaching these guys before the postseason?
Well, we play Iowa State this weekend, so that's the mindset. So it's a mini series. We got to make certain. So they had Sunday off, Monday off, well-deserved optional practices. So we'll get back to work. We're infusing systems, we're infusing face-offs, we're infusing plays. Even though that you could draw it out, it's not like football where I could, put on my palm every 6 seconds, we're going to run this route, we're going to do that. The players have to feel comfortable enough, and so we reinforce systems. There are a few issues that I want to cover as far as tight games. So we had to pull our goalie in that game that we had lost Friday night. We hadn't practiced it. However, I had enough time on the bench, so we prepped. We didn't call a timeout because I had prepped the guys prior for that. So we'll work on those type of situational moments. And then to keep the cohesion going, because one person with the puck, the way we play, isn't the issue. It's the 4 guys off the puck. So it's all timing, and the more that you play, the timing to find holes, find seams, and make certain you're moving when the puck comes and it's presented properly. That's how we play.
Let's talk about you for a couple minutes here. You were in the NHL for 12 seasons. What was your time like being in the NHL?
I was fortunate. I describe luck as an opportunity to take advantage, but being prepared when an opportunity arises. Okay, so to understand the whole history of professional hockey, the success of the '80 Olympic team, winning in Lake Placid, was the first thing to open the eyes and opportunities for Americans to play. Okay, so I give an awful lot of credit to them and their success. I was an 8th round draft pick. What that means, it's nice to be drafted, and it's nice that my parents and friends could say, yeah, I was drafted. But realistically, you don't get a chance at making a team. First, second, and third rounds do. So every day I had to earn my ice time, had to earn my opportunity, earn my spot. Even though I knew I was cut or I had a plane ticket to the minors at training camp, it was just a matter of being an overachiever, knowing exactly what I want. The path was not freshly laid for me. There's a lot of adversity, and it made me a really, really strong person that I was very successful at. I had good tutelage going along the ways, and the tutelage was hockey players give back. You have to be accessible. You have to grow the game. You have to teach the tradition. And being around those type of people, I'm not a very social person out on the streets. I talk to everybody, but I don't need it and I don't seek it. But I do understand the tightness and the cohesiveness of somebody that had to go through the rigors of being top 2% in the world that play hockey.
So, quick to wrap it up, where do you see Lindenwood at the end of the season?
National championship. I see us number one every single day. Last year we had a fantastic team. Okay, we probably played our worst game in the semifinals. We had a team that could have won a national title. Every time, and it's part of my recruiting spiel, you want an opportunity to win a national title, you come to Lindenwood. Great education, fantastic coach, opportunity to win a national title, and a wonderful social life. Lindenwood's where it's at. But for me, it's all about winning the final game and making certain that our timing, our composure, and our cohesion is all in sync at the right time when we get there. It's in Dallas this year.
Coach, thank you for your time and best of luck on the way. Coming up next on the Lindenwood Coaches Show, we'll have men's volleyball coach Joe Kosciw on the Lion Pride Sports Show.
So we were walking to school.
I started thinking about lunch. Mom packed me turkey and cheese.
She's
I really want
smart.
cheese pizza.
Sometimes her mind wanders.
We should have a sleepover.
I remember saying, Laura?
I think I heard Mom say something.
The sign says don't walk.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming.
I really hope she doesn't
I
have
really
another
hope I
bad
don't
day
have another bad day at
today.
school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning. 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash? 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic, and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish! In your face! In your face!
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to the Lindenwood Coaches Show. Now here with head coach of the men's volleyball program, Joe Kosciw. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. You're in your second season at head coach. What has been your best memory so far?
Honestly, I think one of the cool things about coaching right now is just the fact of kind of seeing the culture change and everything develop over time. You know, year one, it was kind of let's get the introductory phase through, and then year two, it's now like, hey, everything's already cemented in place. Now we can kind of focus on the volleyball skills.
Last year, you guys had some big wins, in particular Loyola Chicago. What was that feeling like?
It was pretty good, especially when you beat a ranked team on your home floor. That's always a good situation to put yourself in. You know, the guys were ecstatic about that. You know, they hold on to that one a little extra longer. So I know they have a little fuel for the fire this year.
And coming into this season, what was the preparation like for the schedule? Because it's a tough one.
It is tough. You know, the way that we like to think about it is our non-conference schedule is going to get us set for conference play, and we play in arguably the toughest conference in the nation. So we wanted to schedule tough, and myself and my assistant Ben, we went out and we got in contact with some of those coaches and assistant coaches and tried to reach out and see who we could bring in, and this was the result of it, and it's pretty tough who we're going to play this year. So I know our guys have kind of been up for the cause on what we wanted to do and what we want to accomplish scheduling wise, and like I said, the fall, it was kind of fuel for the fire for them to kind of be ready and remind them every single day of practice of what we're working towards.
And that's right, the schedule is very tough. You already faced a number 2 UCLA. You guys did play a great game, falling in 3 sets, but coming up, number 1 team in the nation, Long Beach State. What's it like for those guys to see that name across the court from them?
For them, it's going to be pretty special. For us, it's the way that we try to get our guys prepped is it's just going to be another game. Just play our game, focus on ourselves, and let's go out and compete. And that's the biggest thing is we want to be able to compete against these best teams in the nation. And the moment we kind of put a team on a pedestal, it's where it kind of knocks us down a couple notches. So now it's more just focusing on ourselves.
And that's what me and head coach of the women's volleyball team, Will Condon, were talking about during the game against UCLA, was that they just kept bringing in All-Americans. And it was that you guys couldn't think about that, because if you thought about that, then it would just be over already.
Mm-hmm. We just have to play our game plan, and that's the thing. We've been telling our guys to trust the process for the entire time that we've led up to season. So they've trusted it to this point, and we got to continue to get better and expand in some areas, especially after the first few weeks of non-conference play, but they're sticking with it. We're trying to work harder, keep improving.
How difficult is it? You guys came out against the win against St. Francis over the weekend to go to 5 sets and get that win.
It was good. That's been kind of a little bit of an issue for us, was overcoming 5 sets. I want to say it was over a year, and it was kind of looming in the back of their head. So that was, again, another thing where we don't want to keep constantly reflecting and harping on that. So it was more like, hey, let's just have a fast start. Let's play our game, 1 point at a time, next play mentality, and the guys did a good job of that.
Let's talk about the MIVA conference you guys have coming up. It's, again, one of the toughest conferences in the country. What do you see being in that conference, and what does it mean to you to be in that conference along with those schools?
It's awesome to be in the conference with those schools because there's never a day off. So you have to bring your best every single game, and there's no time to really, hey, I have a free weekend here. The MIVA doesn't allow you to do that. So the good thing about it in our case is we just get to go out and bring all we got, and we don't have a target on our back like some of those ranked teams do. So as long as our guys are mentally prepared and dialed in on the scouting report, it should be a fun conference slate.
So do you guys feel like you are the underdogs in most of the games in the MIVA conference?
I would like to think that, yeah.
That's a fun way to go into games, though, against other opponents at their home court, the underdogs.
Yep.
Everybody loves an underdog story.
For sure.
What does it mean for the players and to coach in front of a giant crowd at Highland Arena? Against UCLA, there was a big crowd.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of energy in there. Shout out to the swim team. They did a great job. There was a couple other sports programs that were there. It was a lot of fun to see the atmosphere. The guys fed off the energy. Hopefully we could get that again on Thursday. That would be awesome. So, it's always great to have a big crowd. The guys got to experience that on the road this weekend at Penn State. Even though we were in their secondary gym, but it was awesome. A lot of energy.
Do you think by scheduling those non-conference games with the giant school names like UCLA and Long Beach State that more people will want to come from the St. Louis area?
I hope so. And we're trying to get the word out there to a lot more people. We have brochures and flyers that we're trying to post around town and try to, get the sport and the name out there a little bit more. It's kind of tough because not many people have heard of men's volleyball or know to what scale men's volleyball actually exists. So for us, it's constantly just trying to grow the game and get the name out there.
And you talk about the scale of the game around the area. It's a kind of a small community, isn't it, around the United States?
Yep. There's a local club team around here that kind of has the majority of the best athletes in the area. Outside of that, the closest one is probably the Chicago area, and then beyond that, you have California, you have New York, a little bit down in Florida, Wisconsin for sure, but it's all kind of all across the United States.
So for recruiting, does that go into recruiting purposes? You just have to go to one big city and then you'll find the whole collection of athletes?
I wish it worked out that way. That would be awesome if it did. But no, there's a couple international athletes that reach out to you. It's not like we get to fly over there, but you kind of get the experience of seeing what international volleyball is like So you get to experience that. You could go to California and see all the West Coast teams. You could go to Chicago and get a good mix of both coasts as well as the Chicago teams. And, there's also a couple teams that come in from like Puerto Rico. So it's always a good mix.
You have a very split roster on upperclassmen and lowerclassmen, I feel like. How does that help the team bond and mesh together?
It's good because, there's the leadership can come from the upperclassmen, as like everyone would normally say, but I think we have a good balance between, leaders in each individual class. So it's not like there's a clashing that really goes on. It's more just an understanding and a good dialect that goes on between all the grade levels.
You've had a couple underclassmen step up this year, Charlie Lavin, the redshirt sophomore, and Diego Negron. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you as a coach for these young kids to step up and for the future of the program?
I mean, it's really exciting, especially, they're on the first half of their careers or coming up to the halfway point of their careers, and it's something special to see, the amount of skill that they have right now and to think what their skill set can be in the next few years over time. So it's going to be fun to develop that and continue to expand their IQ and kind of make them more of a student of the game as well.
Do you think more kids will want to come to Lindenwood, seeing that you guys are facing these schools that are giant and competing with them?
I think so, but I think that this is kind of the norm of what our scheduling should be. We always want to try to schedule potentially tough opponents, especially in the non-conference side, because we want to be battle tested for once we get in the conference slate. So, we're going to have to travel at least West Coast one time a year, East Coast one time a year, because we play all the teams that are centralized in the Midwest. So we're going to have some of those bigger name opponents every single year.
What are your expectations for the MIVA conference this year?
I know our team goal is that we want to go ahead and make a lot more noise in the conference this year. So, again, we're going to go ahead and be the underdog role in the majority of that, but I think our guys are going to be ready and battle-tested for once conference comes around.
What is your main goal for the players? Is it on the court while playing? Is it the middles blocking? I know Hipelius and Schindler have been there for a while blocking, or the outsides like Lavin.
I want to see them go ahead and execute, especially on the defensive end, their blocking assignments and what they need to do. Follow the scouting report that we've given them, and then in terms of the outsides, making sure that they could pass, 3 passes as often as possible, and then being able to terminate, especially in a one-on-one situation. So as long as they have their tasks at hand, especially scouting report-wise, and they could perform that, I think they'll be in a good spot. How important is that scouting report for those that don't know? When doing sports, it's really important, right? Yep, it's pretty detailed. Ben, my assistant, myself, we kind of divide it up. We divide and conquer, so we don't all have just one thing to do. So, we start getting the scouting reports to the guys 2 days in advance before the match, so the guys can get one aspect, then the next day they'll get another aspect, and then it's game day to where they could just review it. But they have their own film login. They have the ability to watch all the matches, our practices that we film as well. So it's key that they get to keep learning and keep getting better. Who are the leaders of the team, and what have they meant to this program? Boy, a couple of the leaders, Adam Brewster, our setter, he's been great. As a setter, he's basically the quarterback of the team. So he needs to run the show offensively in terms of that. Defensively, you have Connor, you have Sam. Like you said, they're the two big middles, so Connor's more physical. Sam is a great team guy. He understands and grasps all the team concepts. But again, like Charlie is great. He's kind of the understanding and the more I'm going to let my play do the talking. And then, we have a couple of the freshmen that are trying to find their feet right now still, but they're doing a good job of, in crunch situations, demanding that they get the ball and wanting to be that person that could own that moment. If you had to tell young athletes one thing about volleyball to maybe spark their interest in the game, what would that be? Honestly, you don't need to get into volleyball right out of the gates. It could come, a little bit over time. I didn't start playing until I think it was about 6th or 7th grade, and I didn't truly know how to play until maybe my freshman year of high school. So, it takes time to develop, but once you pick it up, it's pretty quick to learn. And, if you could hit the ball hard and you're pretty teachable and coachable, then I think you'll be good enough to excel and get in a college program. What's one thing that you look for in a player? Depends. It depends what the needs are of the team. So if I want more offense, if there's probably a minimum of a 6'4", 6'5" outside that could pass the ball and has a hammer for an arm, then that'll probably be something that I would want to, take a lot of interest in. If it's going to be somebody that is going to be complete nails on passing, then, even if they're about 6 foot, they could go ahead and be my libero. So, it depends on what skill set I want to be looking for.
Well, I'm about 6'4", so does that mean I get a tryout for the team?
If you have a vertical and if you have a hammer for an arm, yeah, that's a possibility.
All right, I'll have to check that one out then.
Yeah, for sure.
So one last thing before we go, what are your expectations for the rest of the season as we go on?
Non-conference, I just want us to keep competing. Obviously, we have number 1 Long Beach this weekend, so I want our guys to just show up and compete and be ready to go. And, we don't have a target on our back, so don't back down, don't go away, and give it all we got. And then once we get into the conference slate, let's make some noise. We want to surprise a couple more teams, and ultimately that's the goal that we want, is to potentially host that first quarterfinal match here. So, play the underdog and play our game and stay focused on what we know to do, and hopefully it'll be good.
That's great, Coach. Thanks for coming. That was head coach Joe Kosciw of the Lindenwood men's volleyball team. Thanks for joining us on our program today. We'll be back on the Lion Pride Sports Show next time.